What do you do now, and how long already you do? Mhm.
Yeah, I'm a CEO and founder of a startup called Dagangan. We are based in Indonesia and we focus on rural areas. So, as you know, e-commerce has been one of the hottest trend in the region for the last 5 to 10 years. And not only e-commerce, we're talking about the whole digital ecosystem. However, the advantage of the digital ecosystem only touch the people who are living in urban areas, like big cities, like where I'm sitting right now, in one of the biggest shopping malls in Jakarta. But if you think about it, the one that is probably can be impacted even further or benefited even further are actually people living in the rural areas, right? So we are talking about 70% of the population of Indonesia and most of the population in the region who are actually living outside the big cities. We focus on them by doing three things basically. Number one,
Mm,
we build communities.
mm,
So we hire the local leaders to do education to them, to use our apps, to use the digital solutions we are actually building. That's number one. Number two, we built the logistics or fulfillment infrastructure. One of the reasons why people in the rural areas are seldomly using digital services, particularly e-commerce, because the shipping costs are very expensive. The reasons because the delivery is done from the warehouses or the distribution centers located in big cities. So we built hub and spoke. So it's a network of micro warehouses,
mm,
very small warehouses, but massive numbers. We have 50 plus right now, spread out across the islands, located deep in the remote areas. So when they do the shopping through our digital platform, the delivery happen or the delivery is done from that micro warehouses that already located very deep in the rural. So we can charge zero rupiah or $0 for them. So it's going to be free delivery. So that's the second thing we do. The third thing we do, we bring equality. So beforehand, people in the rural areas have very limited options. So they only can buy products from one brand typically. You know, if you are Indonesian, you probably know Indofood.
mhm,
Indofood have Indomarko, Indomart, which is their distribution company, their subsidiary. They also have a lot of FMCG products. One of them, which is very popular, is Indomie. So Indofood products are the only products that have penetration very deep in the rural. So they only have one option, Indofood products. Meanwhile, if we are in the cities, we actually have more and more options, better options with cheaper price. However, they don't have access to these products. So we bring these products very, very close to them. They can buy all of these products and then deliver for free because we have micro warehouses. And uh, going back to number one, because we have network of local leaders, the local leaders will educate them how to use the apps, how can they benefit from the apps, and all of the schemes that can be utilized through our apps. So, in short, we are digital rural distributors for daily necessities products. So, everyone in Indonesia, especially in the rural areas, can access all of the products that we can access in the cities with a cheaper price and
mm.
with free delivery using digital and physical infrastructure that we built.
Wow, it's a noble passion and dream,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. For how long have you been in this industry, in this organization?
We started mid 2019, so it's 3.5 years.
3.5 years. Wow, it's amazing
Yeah,
process.
3.5 years. We start from one micro warehouse in Magelang, one of the areas in Central Java. Now we operate 50 warehouses
Mm,
across a lot of remote areas in Java, like Temanggung, Tarakan, Purwokerto, Kelampok, Bumiayu, Demak, Kudus, uh, uh, you name it, basically, Slawi, and also West Java and East Java. We serve 12,000 users right now, and we also help more than 20 producers or brands from the cities to distribute their products in the rural area.
Only within 3 years, 3.5 years, basically.
3.5 years, yeah, 3.5.
And how is it impact to COVID? Is it positive impact or would you
Well,
say?
for us, it's a blessing in disguise because back then they're not used to online shopping, e-commerce, and stuff. But after COVID is happening and PPKM or social distancing becoming one of the strongest policy that is enforced by the Indonesian government, so they kind of uh, don't have options. They have to shift from the offline to online, and we are the only alternative they have because
Mm,
the other e-commerce typically the warehouses, distribution centers are in the cities and they don't have local leaders network. So it's very difficult for these people to use the other e-commerce platform. And even if they are able to use it, the shipping cost is very expensive
yep,
and the price is not that cheap. So it's not really feasible to use it.
I see. Okay. What do you think are your key challenges in terms of the employment in your sector?
Yeah, I think I would say honestly, human resources or manpower is one of the biggest challenge because uh, if we operate in the more urban areas like nearby Bandung or nearby Semarang or in Yogyakarta, our headquarters located in Yogyakarta, the manpower is pretty much not that challenging, meaning it's easy to get people. So if we have open positions, the time needed to fill in the position is pretty fast. And number two, the training we have to do or the education, the preparation we should do towards these new joiners is typically easier and faster compared to if we do it to the people or to the operations that is located in the more rural and more remote areas. And number three, why it's less challenging because the turnover. So typically, uh, once people basically joining and then they receive all of the education and training and they are able to go through the first 6 months, they typically will stay with us over time. But if we are operating in the remote areas, the ratio of people that are able to pass the probation period, the first 3 months, is not that many. And even for the people or for the talents that are able to pass the probation period, uh, they are sometimes not that sticky because probably they get offers from the other companies located in the bigger cities and they also want to move to the bigger cities. So I think uh, the more remote we are operating, the more challenging it is.
Mm,
However, at the same time, now there is kind of a movement. If you're Indonesian, you know these terms, Balin Deso, Bangun Deso. So now there are movements happening, especially during the COVID when people work from home, when people start to working from their hometowns. People want to go back. People want to leave cities. It's too toxic to live in Jakarta. Like things are very expensive. People are very individualistic. Lifestyle is not healthy. So people want to go back to the rural areas. People want to go back to the suburban areas. And they are educated people. They are capable people. So now we focus on targeting these people. It's just, I don't know whether it's many of them. And I don't know whether we already utilize the right channel to
mm,
actually reach out to them. So I think that's the thing. But so far, we got the right people, the people that would like to go back to their hometowns or just going out from the urban areas to find new things and to experience changes or probably for the social cause.
yeah. How do you manage the challenges in terms of your employment? Because you need to grow within the rural area, right? So how do you manage it?
The turnover is pretty high back then, even till now at some areas at some level. But then there is one thing that I believe. Back then, I just believe it somehow because I saw a big company apply it. Then I feel, and I think it's a good principle to do. But now it has been proven it's really a good principle. So that principle is basically raise the leaders from within. Uh,
Mm,
a lot of startups typically hijack people with a very high and very big salary. It's not really happening in our company. It doesn't mean we don't hijack or we don't hire senior people, but uh, lately, I think the average in terms of the level we hire is junior manager or manager level at the big companies, and then inside they're growing as a professional. The team is also growing, so we are now pretty confident, and we start to build kind of a career path and job grading internally. And even now, if you are working on the field as a sales agent or as a delivery couriers, you have career path. And now, more than five of our managers are coming from the field people.
Wow.
They have been with us since the first day, and I think they have been very honest. They're showing their integrity on top of their impressive performance.
Hmm. Wow, interesting. How many employees now total in your company?
We have almost 300 white collar. So someone with salary more than two times of minimum regional wage, and we have another uh, almost 500 blue collars, someone with 1 to 2x minimum regional wage level.
Oh, it's all self-employment or you outsource to third party?
The second one, the blue collar, we outsource, but then we gradually shift it. We start with we call it Kepala Hub. It's a hub leader. So for every single micro warehouse, there is someone that is in charge the end to end. Now we shift some of them from outsource to headquarter employee.
I see. Okay, interesting. Yeah. I would like to ask more about the culture because you are in a remote area. How do you make sure that the employee has the set up the same culture as you want in your company? Because it's you are separated in different locations, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think I would say three things that I have in mind. Number one, we treat them as human, not
Mm,
assets. So human as in uh, I see you as humans. So it's not like I'm paying you, so you have to obey me, whatever I say. It just sounds crazy. But at the same time, because you're human, you see if the company is struggling, you need to improve your performance. So you need to help. You should put your effort in it because this is our ship. So I think that's how we define human. Because I feel like some companies, no, well, not some, but most of the companies don't see their people, especially the people on the field, the blue collars, as human. They probably see them as robots or assets. But probably some companies, especially in the Westerns, they put too much emphasis on this. So sometimes if we deal with some types of people or some group of people, we need to be we need to be a bit straightforward and very clear in terms of uh, what we want them to do. So I think to keep the balance and to treat them as a human is the first key that we did and we would like to continue doing. The second one would be never neglect or never ignore the local wisdom. So we don't use English in our day to day.
mm,
I only use English to speak to the foreign investors.
mm,
So we have a lot of local investors. I talk to them in Indonesia. I don't care, right? Even in the company back then, we use English at the beginning, and I say it like this. This doesn't make sense. Like, why should we use English? We don't have any foreigner in the team. There is no foreigner. All of the people are WNE, and all of them are very fluent in Indonesia, right? Well, some of them are struggling because
mm,
they only able to speak in Java, but still, right? Java, not English, so it doesn't make sense. So I think same thing. So in operating, especially on dealing in the field people, we cannot neglect and ignore local wisdom. Especially me, I'm coming from a semi-military background, and I love spending time on the field back then, at the early stage of the company.
mm.
So uh, I really know when we neglect the local wisdoms, and it's the second principle we have, and that's probably what differentiates us from other startups that probably very Western somehow.
Mm.
Uh, the third principle would be fairness, right? As in, well, we treat you as a human, but it doesn't mean we don't fire you, right? So if you don't perform that, I have to fire you.
Yeah.
But fairness also doesn't mean putting the same standard for everyone. If you remember the image of two children that are trying or struggling to be able to see the football match behind the wall, they have different heights. Fairness doesn't mean giving them the chairs with the same height, because if that's the case, they will still end up with different level of height, because one of them is actually taller, but you provide them with chairs with different heights, so the end state they can achieve the same level, exactly the same level of height, right? So I think that's fairness. So fairness doesn't mean treat everyone with exactly the same treatment, no. But the principle is everyone should be end up uh, at the level of the welfare we believe uh, they deserve with. So I think that's very abstract though. So I think we are still continuously improving on that. Till I don't know, till end of the world probably.
Yeah. Okay. It seems that you have a real great vision in terms of culture, and I wonder how do you what is it influence the other your other leaders in the same way, set up the same culture as what you expect. How can you share how do you make sure that your next leaders is doing the same thing as what you do?
Yeah. So there is a research done by academician from US and probably from all over the world. The highest performing organizations in the whole world is not Microsoft, it's not Facebook, but it's Navy SEALs, it's Marine, it's
Yes.
soldiers.
Mhm.
So if I feel like if we really want to build the good culture, we don't benchmark from Netflix, from Microsoft, or even from GE. We benchmark from the soldiers. And if you look at the soldiers, you will see some of the interesting insights. You will see the people or the officers are willing to die for the leader. You will see that. But then, way before it, you probably didn't see, and this is the key, the leader are actually the first one that willing to die for the people. And this is true story, especially if you watch a movie, uh, Saving Private Ryan. It's a private, and then even the hiring officers are willing to risk their life to be able to save their men. And it's based on true story. And I have a lot of friends joining the armies. They're going to do the same. Now they're already colonel, like lieutenant colonel, and some of my senior already become a general. But and they're still willing to die for the people. So I think uh, that's the principles. If I really want to see people uh, value and appreciate what I value and appreciate, they first have to see and experience and feel I'm willing to sacrifice for them. Of course,
Mm.
with the right reason, with the right cause. Uh, well, we are probably not in the war, so it's a bit difficult to demonstrate that. But I think one of the practical things is typically in the early stage of the company, the investors are still chasing you with a lot of questions, especially if something are not going right. Now, as a CEO, as a leader, you have two options. Number one, you shift it to your people. You say, I don't know, they operate this, they do this, they make decisions. Or you say to the investors, well, I probably don't know. And the fact that I don't know, they just show that I'm not a good CEO. So I take the blame. So I think
Mm.
that's the difference, right? So probably in the context of the army, die meaning like you lose your life, but in the context of professional corporations, die meaning you take the blame because you are the leader.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Very
there's
interesting.
gonna be the continuation, of course. After that, when you have one-on-one with your this team member, then you're gonna scold him over like crazy. But that's different story. In front of investors, you take the blame. But afterwards, yeah, you deal with your team.
Yeah. Okay, but since you have a real noble vision to grow the business in rural area, which is helping others as well in the rural areas, can you share how you vision your people in terms of yeah to support the business?
Uh, can you repeat?
So because you are growing your business in the rural area, which is very noble to help others in the rural area, and I would like to shift the conversation on the employee. Yeah, how do you see the employee uh, help you to support your business? How you see the vision of the employees, the employment?
Uh, yeah, I think my business is very straightforward, right? So if we are selling things, daily necessities, FMCG, fast moving consumer goods, and even yes, we use apps, but we still have sales agent, and then we still have delivery courier, meaning even if now they are very independent, they can order from the apps. If our people don't do the delivery within the time we promise, which is 24 hours, or they deliver it carelessly, so a lot of goods are actually broken, still it's going to ruin the business. So what I'm trying to say, uh, even we are a tech company, even now we are probably uh, on our way to shifting the rural people to be able to fit into digital lifestyle. But people or manpower are still a very important asset for us. In this case, specifically in delivering the goods, order fulfillment. Now, number one, I think it's a very basic thing. The incentives has to be right. So, and this is part of the fairness. But of course, uh, it doesn't mean the incentive for everyone in every area is the same because every areas have different level of minimum regional wage. But at least we have to comply with that. So I think that's a very important thing to comply with it. That's the basic thing. In treating our employees, especially on the ground. The second one would be meritocracy. So for those who actually perform better than average, they need to get more. Either it's more incentives or promoted to be able to get or do the higher role. And the third thing would be um, hear the mic. So I think this is very interesting because there are two or three people leaving the company simply because they were not heard.
Mm, mm,
So people want to be heard, and if someone reaching out to me, I think it's already a big effort because especially in Indonesia, in the Eastern context, you are reaching out to the highest person in the company organization, meaning it's very important and it takes a lot of bravery out of you, right?
mm,
Especially if you are at the bottom of the pyramid in terms of the organization.
mm,
So I really have to spend my time. Well, I'm busy, everyone is busy, but I need to spend my time because it takes a lot of effort to contact it. So I think that's what I'm trying to do. And again, basic meritocracy, hear them out. It's basically the derivative of treating them as a human.
mm. Interesting, very interesting. Uh, but there are two questions that I would like to ask you. The first one, what kind of advice that you would like to tell people, especially to people who would like to grow and follow the passion like you, to grow a better Indonesia by helping people in rural areas? What sort of advice?
Well, I don't know, but because I think it's very personal questions. At the end, what 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 motivates me to do this not because I'm a good person, because I'm pretty sure I'm not a good person, but I think because my not my parents, but my grandparents are coming from this background. They're coming from the remote areas. Rote Island, the most southern island of the country, and the other side from my mom, my grandparents are living very deep in the remote areas in central Java. So I just heard the stories from my mom and from my dad, how they struggled, how they fought, and I feel like it's not fair for them. So I just want to make sure if now there are people like my grandparents, they can get the fairness that my grandparents couldn't get. Uh, and I think the question that should be asked for every one of us, like I believe we are not a perfect. I don't know. Probably some people are just their life are very perfect. They're born from a very rich families. They get whatever they want. But I think that's not what's happening with the 90% of the population. So I think this question is not for everyone, but for the 90% of the populations that cannot get that privilege. So whatever that you think it's unfair in your past, happening in your parents or your life or your grandparents, why don't you make it right? Why don't you do the revenge by making sure it's not happening to other people?
Hmm. Okay, excellent. How about in terms of employment, where you have a challenge there to hire the best talents in that region? What kind of advice that you give to others?
Well, I honestly I don't know because we don't hire the best talents because the best talents are usually very cocky and they overvalue themselves. Especially if you say if you measure best by their GPA or by
Fit,
their achievement or competitions. So I think
no, best
for
means
me,
fit to your needs, right?
then if it's then for me best meaning you are appreciating the same values, so you will be very comfortable with the culture we have. And if your definition of best is similar with my definition, then you don't have to attract them, they will come to you.
Mm,
Well,
mm,
it takes time. It is not going to happen since the first time you start the company, but it will happen.
mm. You will
Yeah.
come. Mm, okay, good. Um, if you would like to start your journey again, what would you do differently?
Well, I have list of technical operation sensors on this, but on the high level manner is I will recalibrate the way I value every single component of the business. So typically, we will see the value of investment or the cash uh, uh, way more important compared to the right people, right? Uh,
Mm,
well, I don't say it's no longer important, but probably the gap is very far. If I can, you know, going back to the past, it's probably the gap is probably very small, or at some context, it's probably equally important.
mm, mm.
So
Okay.
if you are very serious in getting investment in doing fundraising, then you probably will put similar effort and become equally serious in getting the right talent and making sure they are with you as long as possible.